animals on Shabbos, and we're going to start from the Machaber Yud. Kol chai v'remes shem noshchem u'misim vadai. Any animal or crawling animal that kills for sure, the harogim b'Shabbos may be killed on Shabbos, afilu ein rotzen acharv, even if they are not chasing after a person, because they are dangerous, and if they're in a human vicinity, it's considered like a mitzvah to kill them.
But if an animal normally kills us, how we eat. If an animal kills another animal because that's what he eats.
So
you would kill him because he killed an animal?
No, we're talking about killing people.
Oh, kill people. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, we don't protect animals from each other.
Yeah, I know that.
Because then we would destroy the ecosystem. If animals would be vegetarians, there would be no animals left.
But we would kill him because he's known to kill people, even though he might not.
It's not that this particular animal is known to kill people. This species of animal kills people. And therefore, if you see it in an inhabited area, you kill it. Whether it's preventative, exactly.
Preventative on Shabbos.
Exactly, preventative on Shabbos. Ushar mazikin. Now this is, by the way, a Torah violation according to the Rambam. We discussed yesterday that malacha shein tzarich legufa, which is when you are doing work, but you don't need the item that you're doing the work with. So, for example, you're killing the animal here. You don't need the dead animal. You just don't want it to kill people. So, according to most Rishonim, that's only a malacha d'Rabbanan. The Rambam says that is a malacha d'Oraisa. But over here, even though it's a Torah level violation, for the sake of saving a life, or possibly saving a life, we transgress on that, and that's okay. Ushar mazikin. Now, when it comes to other damaging animals, kegoin, nochosh va'akrov, for example, snakes and scorpions, makam she'enim emisim, in a place where they don't kill, imrotzen acharov mutar lahargam. If they're chasing after you, you're allowed to kill them. Now, the Mishnah Berurah brings two ways of understanding this machaber. One way is that it's according to the opinions, which is the majority, that a malacha she'ein tzarich legufa, you're pater. If you don't need the item, you're doing the malacha with your pater. So therefore, this is only a rabbinic violation. So therefore, even though they're not dangerous, but if they're coming after you, to save yourself from grievous bodily harm, we mentioned this yesterday, you're allowed to do a malacha d'Rabbanan, a rabbinic level work, and that's why. Another pshat, however, he says, is that perhaps it is according to the Rambam's opinion, and it is a Torah violation. And when it says that you're allowed to kill it if it's running after you, it's talking about an animal that may be lethal. We don't know. Some of the snakes are, some of them aren't. Some of the scorpions are, some of them aren't. And it's not, if it wouldn't be chasing after you, we would say, double doubt, Torah violation, forget about it. But if it's coming after you, and it's a possibility that it's dangerous, then even according to the Rambam, you kill it. V'imlav aser, if it's not coming after you, you're not allowed to kill it. Aval mutar ledarsum lefi tumai, you're allowed to step on them as you're walking. Meaning to say, if they're not coming after you, and they're not dangerous, either they are just harmful, or they perhaps are dangerous, perhaps not, you don't know. In those cases, you're allowed to step on them as you walk. Even if you're stepping on them intentionally. But he makes it appear as if he's not doing it intentionally. What just happens to... I'm sorry? Can't hear you. Lefi tumai means... How do you translate lefi tumai? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Lefi tumai, literally, if you want to translate it literally, it's like the third son in the Haggadah, the Tam, the simple son. Lefi tumai means with simplicity, meaning to say as he's walking. It shouldn't be evident that you're chasing after it and stomping on it. It should look like you're just walking, and in the manner that you're walking, you happen to step on it.
Okay, so like stom, like we use in the other places.
Kind of, yeah. I'm sure the Alter Rebbe will have a good translation with the New English. We'll get to that momentarily. Okay. Now, by the way, whether according to the Rambam or according to the other poskim, once you're stepping on it as you walk, it's not a Torah violation, because that's called a shinui. That's not the usual way that you would kill animals. So that already makes it a derabanan, which would explain why you're allowed to do it, because you're saving yourself from a possibility of grievous harm in a rabbinic manner.
But you're doing it intentionally.
You're doing it intentionally. But we're going to see that perhaps this is only true according to those that argue on the Rambam, not according to the Rambam himself, who says that if it would be intentional, if it wouldn't be with a shina, it would be a Torah violation. Alter Rebbe is going to go into that right now. All right, we are doing the Alter Rebbe 22. Kol chayev haremes she'eino shchinu emisin vadai. Any wild animal or crawling thing that bites and kills for sure. For example, poisonous snakes, rattlesnakes, other snakes, cobras, snakes that you know are poisonous. A rabid dog. Excuse me, or any other animal that if they would bite, they would for sure kill. Of course, nowadays we do have a cure for rabies, right? But you don't have to put yourself in that situation where a person would catch the disease and then have to heal himself, because that's already a mortal wound that he would be able to drive to the hospital to get the...
I think you can only cure rabies if you catch it fast enough.
Yeah. You have to catch it fast enough, correct. But it's not, I think it's days. I don't think it's hours. I think it's days. But in any case, the point is, obviously, you don't have to put yourself in that situation. So, mutalogam Shabbos, you'll have to kill them on Shabbos. Afilu einan ratzanacher of klal, even if they're not chasing you at all. Because it is considered a threat to life to kill them. Even the mere possibility of saving a life supersedes the Shabbos prohibitions. Maybe they will kill a Jewish person. Any possibility of saving a Jewish life is reason to desecrate the Shabbos. Even with an absolute Torah violation. Even according to the opinions that say that a malacha legufa is chayev min haTorah, which is the Rambam's opinion, nevertheless, to save a life or to possibly save a life, we transgress. That's no problem. It's a mitzvah. Since when it's killing a dangerous animal is a safety measure and not for the sake of its hide, meat, or blood, killing it is considered malacha legufa. Nevertheless, it's mutter, like we said. Other dangerous animals, even those that certainly do not kill with their bite, they only cause damage to the body. For example, snakes and scorpions in a place that you know for a fact these species do not kill. But they do damage. And similar things. Some say, if they're running after you, you're allowed to kill them. According to the opinions that say that a malacha is only a rabbinic violation, because in the situation of doing damage to the body, they did not make a decree. Yesterday we learned about a flea that's biting you. What did we say you're allowed to do? Shoo it away. Even take it with the fingers and throw it away. But we say not allowed to kill it. Because when you shoo it away, you're not doing an act that is similar to trapping, because it's clear that you're just getting rid of it. Whereas if you kill it, that is, even though it's not a Torah violation per se, because you don't need the body of it, but it's very close to Torah violation. So that we don't allow you to do it. Here, it's also close to Torah violation, and we do allow you to do it. And the reason is very simple. Because a flea bite is not considered damage to the body, it's only considered a pain to the body. Whereas the bite of a poisonous snake or scorpion, even though it's not lethal, is considered damaging to the body. And therefore, one is allowed to do a serious rabbinic violation, right? Killing in a way of malachas gufa to save oneself from it.
What about malaria, one of those, mosquitoes in Africa or whatever?
I mean, that's
also
lethal.
dangerous.
That's dangerous, absolutely. If you're in a place where the mosquitoes have malaria or may have malaria, you can kill them. No problem. You don't have to wait till it bites you. You can kill it before. Yeah.
What if you don't know? You don't know if that specific mosquito has malaria.
It's a good
In
question.
that place, yes.
How would you know?
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Like, what are the percentages that you have to, have to be able to kill? I don't know.
Or is that similar to the animal that's known to kill?
No, it's
That
not,
you could do-
because this is not an animal that's known to kill. This is a species that some of which are known to kill, some which are not. You don't know.
What about whatever mosquitoes carry the Zika virus?
Yeah.
Oh, Zika.
Rabbi Shapiro Paskin, last time I asked him to share that a couple of years back, that if it's in the Zika zone and if you have a pregnant woman in the area, then you can kill mosquitoes. So I don't know, it's hard to know exactly, how to measure this thing.
Well, first, not specials later, or something.
Yeah, that could be. That could be. Okay. The main and or if they're not chasing after the person now, but he's afraid they're going to. Also, you're not allowed to kill them in a way that is clearly intentional. Here, let's get some translation here. He may, however, tread on them as a matter of course as he walks. All right, Daniel? That's how he translates the fitumay, as a matter of course as he walks.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Even if he's doing it with the intention of killing. But he's showing that it's as if he's doing it just as a matter of course with that intention to kill. Okay, so now here's the concept. Listen here. First of all, it's only rabbinic, because you don't need the body of the animal. They didn't make the decree in the place of the damage to the body. Even if it's only suspicion. However, here, where they're not actually chasing you, where it's only a possibility, so there they only said you have to do it in a different manner. And the different manner that they suggested is that you do it in a way that does not appear that you're doing it on purpose. So first of all, that takes care of the Maris Ayin issue, that people might think it's okay to just go ahead and kill animals. And second of all, it also makes it be with a shinui, that it's not the usual way that you're killing. Now, even the animals that their bite is possibly lethal, sometimes they kill, sometimes they don't. So if they're not chasing you, you have to make a shinui, because it's like a double doubt. Maybe they'll come after you, maybe they won't. Even if they do, maybe it's dangerous, maybe it's not. Yeah, 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 yeah. But when it comes to crawling things that do not do damage, like ants and anything similar, also you're not allowed to step on them. Even if you don't intend to kill them, but it's a psikresha. Listen carefully, my friends. You have to be careful where you walk in the place that there's a lot of insects, like the group in India that is careful to not
Jane.
on insects. What are they called? Jane?
Jane.
Thank you.
They sweep the floor before them.
Is that what they do? I thought they always walk in like a sweeping pattern so that they're never actually.
It could be that.
That's what I read many years ago. They sweep their floor. You know what I mean? They kind of glide instead of putting their foot actually down hard, so that they'll kind of push away any bug. It only works if you're barefoot, so I guess they would go barefoot. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, on Shabbos you have to be careful to not do an action that will for sure kill a bug. Now listen carefully. According to those that say that a malach shenach l'gufa is chayev, leitiu like shrotzen achar v'ledos l'fitu mekshen rotzen achar v'elib min chayev v'remes sheish min shchosin safik nefashos. This whole thing that we've been learning about, that you can kill an animal that is running after you, and you can step on an animal that's not running after you, which we said applies whether it's possibly lethal, or even if it's just going to cause grievous bodily harm, but it's not actually dangerous. That's all according to the opinion that says Malacha Shein Tzarech L'Gufa is pater. According to the Rambam, that Malacha Shein Tzarech L'Gufa is chayav, we have to revise everything we've been learning. Again, review. Malacha Shein Tzarech L'Gufa means when you're doing a malacha, but you don't need the object that you're doing the malacha with. Killing an animal, but you don't need the dead animal. You're not doing experiments on flies, or on ants, or on snakes, or scorpions, or rabid dogs. You're just killing them to get rid of them. So according to the Rambam, that is still chayiv. According to other Rishonim, it's pop. According to the Rambam, if these animals are not actually dangerous, there is no heter to kill them, even if they're chasing after you. And certainly if they're not chasing after you, because you can never, ever do a Torah violation to save yourself from bodily harm. Doesn't exist. There's no such thing in Hilchos Shabbos that a person can do a Torah violation to save himself from bodily harm. Life, yes. Limb, not. Even loss of limb can do a Torah violation. Rabbinic violation, yes. Not a Torah violation. So the point is, therefore, this whole concept of stepping on it when it's running after you, of killing it when it's running after you, or stepping on it as you walk if it's not running after you, we're only going to apply it, according to the Rambam, in a case where the animal may be lethal. May be lethal. Safek nefashot. Sometimes it kills, sometimes not. But it's a possibility that it kills. So then we say, listen, if it's not running after you, don't kill it regular. Sfek sfeka. But you can kill it as you're walking. If it's coming after you, safek nefashot, you can kill it. That's according to the Rambam. But if it's not dangerous, for sure not, don't kill it. Just leave it. Let's read that inside. According to the opinion that says that you are chayev for malacha she'etzarech l'gufa, and by the way, in case you are wondering what the halacha is, now that we're going back and forth between the Rambam and the other Rishonim about malacha she'etzarech l'gufa, what is the halacha, my friends? Malacha she'etzarech l'gufa, chayev or not? Big ramifications throughout Hilchos Shabbos. No? If you dig a hole and you don't need the hole, you just need the earth. If you kill an animal, you don't need the animal, you just don't want it to kill you. If you trap an animal, you don't need it, you just don't want it to kill you. If you, what else? So many examples. Anyway, the main halacha, Alter Rebbe says elsewhere, listen carefully, the main halacha is, malacha she'en tzarich legufa is pater. It's not a Torah violation. However, because the Rambam holds it is, a Baal Nefesh will be machmir. A person who is trying to be extra careful, extra strict, will be strict. In any case where there is a practical halachic application of malacha she'en tzarich legufa being chayiv, understand? Sometimes it's just a moot point because it's forbidden. Just a question if it's Torah prohibition or rabbinic prohibition. What's the difference? You can't do it anyway, right? But sometimes we have a practical application right here, where according to the Rambam, you're not allowed to kill an animal that is not dangerous, even if it's coming after you. According to the other Rishonim, you are. Right? So here we have a practical application. So as we're going to see, a Baal Nefesh, a person who is careful, will follow the Rambam, as we're going to see shortly. All right, let me read it inside. According to the opinions that say that you're chayiv for malacha she'en tzarich legufa, they did not permit you to kill if it's running after. And step on it as you're going. If it's not running after you, the minachayev a remnant only by an animal that may be lethal. But something that is never killed with its bite, also you're not allowed to step on it, even if it's running after you. We don't do a chil Shabbos with a complete Torah prohibition for the sake of saving yourself from bodily harm.
When you say loss of limb, do you actually mean loss of limb?
Actually, yes. Although in many cases, if a person actually loses their limb, their life is pretty hanging in the balance. But nevertheless, in theory, if a person would, if only a limb would be in danger, but not the life at all, a person would not be allowed to desecrate Shabbos in a way of a Torah violation. Now, it's very easy to make something a rabbinic violation, just by the way, because if you do something with the shinoi, right, that becomes rabbinic. You know what I'm saying? You do it with your elbow.
Okay, so practically speaking, it would be very difficult to have a situation where you absolutely cannot save, say, I don't know, one's limb that's crushed in some kind of accident or something.
That's correct. That's correct. There's a way to do it. You just do it in a rabbinic violation. Certainly, if there's a Gentile around, you tell him to do it, no problem. But even a Jew does it with a shinoi.
And is this why they have to do things with a shinoi in, say, hospitals in Israel?
Exactly. That's why they try to make everything be a dirabanan, based on a grama and a delay and so on and so forth, so that they should be allowed to do it even if it's not a danger to life at this moment.
All right.
All right, what's the halacha over there? Here we have it right here. Fundamentally, the halacha follows the first view. When we call mokim, nevertheless, kol bal nefesh yesher lahachbar alatzmai, a master of his soul, meaning to say a meticulous person, should be strict on himself, in a Torah matter, in a place that's possible. If it's not chasing after him, do not kill it. If he is able to guard himself from it and warn others to protect themselves from it. Notice how the Alter Rebbe doesn't say he should be strict and allow himself to be bitten. He doesn't say that. He says he should be strict in a situation that is possible. Meaning to say, if it's not actually chasing you, you don't kill it. Just be careful and warn others to be careful. If it's actually chasing you, he doesn't suggest that you be strict.
Did the Rambam say you should be strict and let him bite you?
According to the Rambam, you would have to be strict and let him bite you. That's correct.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm not sure about killing it with a shinui. I don't see why not, actually. But he doesn't mention it for some reason. Like, why doesn't he let you just walk on it, like he said before, as a matter of course, which is a shinui, and therefore should be allowed to protect yourself from imminent bodily harm? That's a good question. See if the Mishnah Berurah answers that, because I don't know. I'm not sure why he doesn't just tell you to do it with a shinui. That is a question I don't know the answer for at this moment. Okay. Moving right along to Chaf Gimel 23. Oisama Anoshim, Shahorgim B'Shabbos Hashmamis, Shekorin Shpin. Zorach Limchis B'Yadam, Shenem Azekas. People who kill spiders on Shabbos should be admonished because they do not harm humans. Now, the truth is that
They haven't been to Australia, have they?
I mean, there are dangerous spiders in certain parts of the world, but it was not common in those areas, and I would say it's still not common in civilized areas. Now, are they common in the cities in Australia? I don't think so.
We had a funnel web spider in the North Shore in Sydney.
Funnel web? What is that?
Deadly one.
Wow.
Well, here in Los Angeles, we have like black widows and brown spiders.
Those things aren't deadly. Certainly not by Australian standards.
Well, one bit my dog and almost killed it.
Yeah.
It could kill a baby. It could kill a baby.
Yes, it could. A black widow could conceivably kill a baby, but it's I would say not in the majority of cases. Maybe a newborn.
That's enough, though. According to what we're learning.
Yeah, if there's a newborn around. While rarely fatal or even serious, says Wikipedia, the venomous bite of these spiders is seen as particularly dangerous because of the neurotoxin.
And there's people who are could be allergic to it too. I mean, there's lots of people with allergies that they have bee stings or things like that. That's they're dead. They're dead.
Yeah, I would equate a black widow with a bee sting.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says it's rarely fatal, but it's mashma that it could be fatal. All right, but in any case, what it seems is that they had spiders that were not actually, their sting was not actually fatal, their bite was not actually fatal, but they had poison in them, and if they would fall into food that might release the poison into the food, a person might eat the food and end up being in danger. So that's what he says now. Even though there's a possibility that it might fall into the food, and the person may not realize and end up eating the poison in there. This is uncommon. It's very simple. Keep the food covered. Even so, the Alter Rebbe says, it's only 1 in 1,000 that is dangerous in food. In any case, when it's not actually chasing after you, right, and it's only a possibility that it's dangerous, you're still not allowed to kill it directly. You only allowed to step on it as you're walking. And the people that he's describing who were killing spiders on Shabbos were not stepping on them as they walked. So therefore, on many accounts, he says it's not allowed. Their body is not dangerous. The fact that they may fall into food is unlikely. Keep it covered, 1 in 1,000. Even if you want to say maybe, even so, the most you'd be allowed to do is just step on it, never to kill it outright. All right. Let us continue in the Shulchan Aruch of the Mechaber. Lo yeshavshef beraglov. This is something that is not brought in the Alter Rebbe. This next seif. Alter probably brings it in later on. Lo yeshavshef beraglov roik al gabe karka mishum demashva gumis. A person should not rub the saliva, right, or the phlegm that's on the ground. Talking about unpaved, what's it called? Like dirt floors. Why? Mishum demashva gumis. Because by doing that, he is filling in the holes that are on that floor. But you're allowed to walk on it as you go. He's bringing this in because it's the same concept of stepping on it as you go. Because here your intention is not to smoothen the floor. Even though it happens anyway. When you're not intentioning, it's allowed because of the fact that it is disgusting. It is disgusting after all, right? And you're not doing it in with the intention of smoothing, and it's a shinui, so we allow it. What about on the floor? Where, tile floor, wood floor.
What's that last word there? Shari Mishum what?
Miyususa, because of disgustingness.
Oh, okay.
Miyus is something disgusting. Now, what if it's a tile floor, right, or any other floor like we have today, where there are no holes in it, so you can't even smoothen the holes? The Mishnah Berurah brings down that you should be strict anyway and not rub it in because of a decree. If you do it here, you may do it elsewhere. You may do it outside, where you may end up smoothing and equalizing the ground. The only case it wouldn't be allowed is if it is on something disconnected from the ground, like if it's on a bench or something. Okay. Here's the thing. Mishnah Berurah adds, here it's a little bit different than what we learned before about animals. When it comes to animals that are dangerous, that are perhaps dangerous or certainly cause serious bodily harm, we said you're allowed to intentionally walk on them with the intention of killing them, as long as you don't make it appear obvious. You have to make it appear as if you're just walking and stepping on them as you go. But in your mind, you're allowed to have the intention to kill them. Why? Because A, it's a malacha she'ein tzarich l'gufa, so you don't need that. B, it's protecting yourself from grievous bodily harm. And by doing it as you walk, it's a shinui. So it's 3 reasons to be lenient. Here, we're not going to be as lenient, says the Mishnah Berurah. Because disgustingness, like having something disgusting, is not as bad as having grievous bodily harm, being bitten by a snake or a scorpion. And therefore, he says, you're only allowed to do it if you actually step on it as you're walking. But you can't purposefully go out of your way to step on it. All right? Let me just make sure I'm getting that right. The only thing you can do is you can, instead of stepping on it, just put your foot on it. Just put your foot on it without actually rubbing it in at all. Because as you walk, your foot moves a little bit. So there is a little bit amount of kind of pushing it around. But if you just tamp on it directly, that's allowed. And especially in a shul, where we are careful not to have things like that, out of respect for a shul. And certainly if it's phlegm and not just saliva, so it's disgusting. But again, the best thing is just to step on it like that, not to actually rub it at all, and not even to walk on it as you go, unless it's simply in the path of your walking anyway. Okay, there is no Alter Rebbe on that, so we're going to continue with Yud Beis in the Machaber. You're allowed to trap a wild animal or a bird that is in your domain. That means it's a wild animal, but you've tamed it. And now it's tame. Meaning to say it comes back at night, goes into the cage, doesn't fight, doesn't run away. At this moment, it's misbehaving, and you're allowed to catch it and bring it back. Because it is not an animal that is a wild animal. Just he's in a bad mood right now. V'hu shelo yimrodu. That's only if he didn't rebel. If they've rebelled, you cannot grab them even in the courtyard. Once they've rebelled, meaning to say they're no longer listening, they no longer come back to their pen at night. Rather, they start running away from you. Now they're going back to being wild. So therefore, you can't catch them even if they're in your chatzah, right? And whenever they're in a place that if you would run after them, you wouldn't catch them right away, you'd have to run back and forth, you'd have to make tricks. That is a place where it is a liability to actually trap them. Therefore, you're not allowed. If the yard is so big that if he wouldn't have been domesticated, you would have had to have a trap to catch him. Right now, you'll catch him easy because he is, after all, he was domesticated for a long time. But the fact is he's already rebelling and he's not listening anymore. So if it's a place that an animal of that kind, which was not domesticated, would need a trap to be trapped, you're not allowed to trap. Even though he is still, more or less civilized, and you will be able to trap it easier. Nevertheless, you're not allowed.
What does it mean? Im chaser gadol she'im lo gadlu. What does that mean? Gadlu beini.
We're talking about an animal that was domesticated. It's a wild animal, but you domesticated it, right? And then it rebelled. So right now, it's it's not as wild as a wild animal of that same species, but it's not actually tame either. So, let's say when you come to get it at night to put it in its cage, it runs away, but it doesn't run so fast, you know what I mean? It's not so afraid of you, so you can catch it easier than if it was actually wild, you understand? But nor is it domesticated either. So now, when deciding if you're allowed to catch it in your courtyard, you have to consider if this courtyard is a place that an animal of a similar species that was not domesticated at all would be considered trapped in there or not. You understand? If an animal of that species that's not domesticated, you would have to figure out tricks how to catch it in your courtyard with traps or with running back and forth. So then this animal, even though it's somewhat domesticated and you're able to catch it without a trap, you're still not allowed to catch it in this courtyard. See what I'm saying?
In other words, if you have like a rabbit, for example, like
Yes.
so if he's out running around but he's in a big yard, you still can't catch him in the big yard.
Yep.
Even if you need to put him in his cage, you can't catch him.
For sure not.
Okay.
A rabbit that never became docile to the extent that he allows you to catch him, you certainly can catch him. No question about it. Here's the chiddush what we're saying now. Let's say you have a rabbit that is so domesticated that at night he comes back, lets you pick him up, lets you put in the cage, no problem. So such an animal, there is no law against catching it at all because it's considered domesticated, even though that species is not domesticated, but that particular animal is. Here the chiddush is, if this rabbit, which used to be docile and domesticated, now stopped behaving and it starts running away, even though you could catch it easier than other wild rabbits, but once it's in a place that a wild rabbit could not easily be caught, you cannot catch it. Got it?
Yeah. Basically, the animal became naughty.
Exactly. So now it's treated as if it was a completely wild animal.
Right.
Some forbid trapping even an animal that is in your domain. From sudden potter, but if you did, it's potter. Okay, Alter will explain this a little bit more. V'im southern potter, I will part vasus, a cow and a horse, how much more so other animals that have rebelled. Even a domestic animal, once it's rebelled, it's not listening, the person who traps them is chayav chatas. This is what I was mentioning. A cat is like other chayas, meaning it's not considered a domestic animal, and one is not allowed to grab it on Shabbos. Okay. Let's read the Alter Rebbe for some understanding here. Chayv oifak delim b'shusa shalom. Gomish megadol tzvoim bebeise. Oy b'chatzer. Oy avozim targelim v'yoynim. Tzad b'shavas potter shayin tzad nuayim demei. When game animals as you translate game animals, an animal from a species that usually is raised in the wild, nevertheless, because it's raised in a person's home, it is considered as domesticated, are raised on a person's property. For example, he raises deer, geese, chickens, or doves in his home or courtyard. One who traps them on Shabbos is exempt because it is as if they are already trapped and ready to be taken. Now, exempt means that it's forbidden. Got it? This is the Ramah. Meaning to say, an animal that is essentially a wild animal, even though you've domesticated it, midrabanan, you're not allowed to trap it. Because it is by nature a wild animal. So you can invite it in, make it comfortable, but you can't actually trap it. Because it is there, because it is as if they are already trapped and ready to be taken. In contrast, the person who traps doves from a dovecote, in contrast, the person who traps doves from a dovecote or a loft is liable, for they have yet to be trapped. When a person comes to take them from the nest, they are wont to slip away and flee from the nests. People used to make dovecotes, that's what he calls them here. They used to make nests for doves or other birds. They used to put food there, and the birds used to come, and they considered them to be their property. But they never actually trained them, never actually domesticated them. They just had them coming to their property because they provided them with a place to sleep and shelter and some food, and they considered them their property. But halachically, they're completely wild animals. You would not be allowed to trap them under any circumstances on Shabbos or even Yom Tov. Yom Tov, you're allowed to shecht. You can't trap them, which means that they have to come before Yom Tov. Or says in Beitza, you have to choose out animals that don't fly, so you'll know it's the same ones. So this one I'm going to take, that one I'm going to take, and that's it. Masha Enke, Oifes Agdelim Babayis. Shekeshein Born Lakolvin Ba'er Noach Latoisam Sham, Bnei Shaz Einam Asun Lishav Levrach, Lafikach Action Chutz Lakolvin, Ein in the Korban Chusam Seder Kim Shlav, Roy Lachlud Maneh. Call Malcolm the Receive Muscle and how to live there for my cheek console Malcolm Chanel Latoisam Sham. I'll tell them and also I should say to Mishum Mokza, listen carefully. In contrast, when fowl are raised in a home, when they return to the bed in the evening, it is easy to snare them there because they're not prone to slip away and flee. This is the definition of a domesticated animal. And it comes back to sleep at night, and when it comes, it doesn't run away. Unlike my 2-year-old. They have to come to their bed at night and go to sleep happily. That is domesticated. Accordingly, they are not considered as yet to be trapped, even when they are outside their pen, because in the evening they will come to their pens on their own accord. Nevertheless, according to Rabbi Neklot, it's forbidden to trap such a fowl, i.e., to pursue them until they enter a place where it's easy to snare them. Okay. So here is what the Ramah was saying. Since they are essentially wild, you cannot trap them. That means they can come on their own, lakasha, but you can't catch them. Taking them by hand is forbidden regardless, independent of the prohibition against trapping, because they are muktzah. Right? Animals are muktzah, we discussed many times. Ahmed, remember when do we say this? Kishayin b'chatzer b'bayis gadol kol kach. If they are in a chatzar, in a large house, to the extent shem negadu ben bnei adam hayitzrichim mitzuda. If they would not have grown up amongst people, you would need a trap. You need tricks to catch them. When the Korban Chosam say they would be considered lacking trapping. Because it's a big enough house, you can't trap it with one run. You have to chase them to a small room where you can trap them. Listen carefully, my friends. Listen carefully. Once an animal that is domestic, specifically, even though the species is wild, is in an area that is close enough that's considered trapped, you're allowed to actually grab it, which is a chiddush, by the way. Why is it a chiddush? It's already trapped. What's the chiddush? The answer is simple. If it would still be a wild animal, then even within that area you can't grab it, because even though it's trapped, still more trapping midrabanan by actually catching. But since this animal is a domestic animal, it's just midrabanan, you shouldn't trap it because it's a species that's wild. So once it's considered trapped, it's trapped. You can get it. Now muktzah is a separate issue, but there's no issue of further trapping. Another chiddush is as follows. Normally, we said in the beginning of this simon to get an animal to go from being wild to being in an enclosed area that's too big for you to catch it easily. It's not a Torah violation. It is a rabbinic violation. Here, it's not even a rabbinic violation. Again, I'm talking about a domestic animal that's normally wild. You have a pet lion, tiger, bear, you name it, Tasmanian devil, whatever it is. So because it's a species that's wild, you can't trap it. But when it comes to chasing it into a large area that's not Torah level trapping, it's only rabbinic level trapping, here the rabbis were not strict. Because anyway, it's really already trapped at Torah level. Plus, you're not putting it into a situation of real trapping. So it's like double rabbinic, allowed. Only above applies to wild animals and birds. But domestic animals, actual domestic animals, whether they're kosher or not, like a dog is a domestic animal, right? It's not a kosher animal, but it's domestic. That grew up in a person's domain. You're allowed to capture them even from the Shul Sarabim, because they are essentially considered trapped all the time, even midrabanan. Now, of course, right now, if you're trapping them, that means that they're not behaving, they're running away, but they haven't rebelled. They're not like becoming free birds, free animals, I mean. They're just right now, they're in a bad mood. No, you can catch them, it's okay. This is what I was saying before. People don't want to believe me. Cats are different. Cats are considered wild animals because they never really are comfortable, you know. They're not like dogs. Dogs are like your best friend. The cat is very standoffish. It wants to come and go as it pleases.
So you're saying if my dog is naughty, if my dog is naughty, I can actually grab him by his hand. I can grab him with my hands.
Well, you do have a muktzah issue. Picking up a dog is actually a muktzah. You can push a dog. You can push a dog. That we said. You can push a dog, even though it's muktzah, but pushing it is just making it go on its own, forcing it to go. But you can't actually lift it up. Because it's muktzah. Live animals are muktzah.
I thought that had something to do with their hair coming out, or
No.
dogs that don't have that problem.
No. Hair coming out is not a problem because it's not intentional and it's not for sure going to happen. I mean, combing.
What was that case again where you could grab an animal?
We said to prevent tsar balachayim, we said you could. Like if it's going to die or something, you could grab it to prevent it from dying or suffering.
that's not a Torah level prohibition, is it?
What's that? A
Are you
muktzah?
allowed to grab an animal in a way that will definitely bruise it in order to save its life?
Ooh, not simple. Not simple at all. Not simple. Bruising an animal is a Torah violation. Although it's a malacha she'ein tzarich legufa because you don't need that blood. But it's, according to the Rambam, it's a Torah violation. Not simple. I don't know. I would think not. Speaking of animals with hair or without hair, I just came across a fascinating article today about these moles, what they called hairless moles. Hairless moles, they look very weird, but whatever. They are not more likely to die as they age. They will die eventually, but it seems like they don't die from old age. They just die because, things happen and they die, but they don't die of old age. Very strange thing. So if we can figure out their secret, maybe we'll...
That's something I've never heard before.
I never heard it before either. It's so strange. I don't know why they can't live to be 100, but that's what the article was saying. And they don't actually see signs of aging in the bodies of these animals. Anyway, we were discussing domestic animals. All of that is if they have not rebelled. Aval in mardu, but even a domestic animal that rebels, afilu parsha mardu, even if it's a cow, which is generally a pretty docile animal. It's certainly if it's a wild animal or bird that rebelled, that's a Shabbos chayev. A person who traps them on Shabbos is chayev. Just like a person who traps a wild animal or bird. Because once they've rebelled, they're not going to come back to their nests in the evening. All right, my friends. I cannot say that I've prepared more than this. We have some time to go, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the 39 Melachos. Rabbi Ribiat. What? I hope it's not the police. I mean, I didn't think the alarm went off. Okay. Okay, if a pet bird was acquired from a nearby store or neighbor and flew off before it became accustomed to its home, it is nonetheless considered halachically confined, even though it could not be expected to return to its new owner. This is because the bird will certainly follow its homing instinct and return to its former owner, captivity. The same is true of a new pet or cat. That's interesting. So it doesn't have to be used to your home. As long as it's used to a home, and it would go back willfully to its original owner's home and behave, so it's considered a domestic animal with all of the related halachas. Although it is usually prohibited rabbinically to trap partially domesticated animals, there are some situations where this is permissible. if it may cause harm to itself, if it may cause harm or damage to others, or if there's no intention for itself, the animal will only be loosely confined. For example, if a new farm hen or chicken ran off and may become hurt by other animals or can cause damage by flying near china or other breakable items, it is permissible to ask a non-Jew to capture the bird, even though malacha through a non-Jew is ordinarily forbidden even in the face of financial loss. Because of the damage or the tzar balachayim, the animal itself could suffer, so you can do that. Similarly, a child of 6 or 7 years old who goes after the bird need not be admonished from doing so, even though the child must, under normal circumstances, be prevented from doing any Shabbos prohibitions. One who owns a pet bird, dog, or cat may enter or leave his large house and close the door behind him, because the animals are not considered tightly confined in a large house. This is what we need to chase around.
If you have a dog flap or a cat flap, does that mean that you don't have to worry about this at all?
That's correct.
Does that also mean that if you have a totally wild animal that doesn't know how to operate one, you can do that?
No. Can't do that, no.
How is that different to flies with where you leave a tiny gap?
Flies where you leave a tiny gap is only allowed
because we don't typically gather them.
First of all, it's an argument if you typically gather flies or not. Second of all, actually, there is a comparison actually, because over there it's not your intention to trap. Understand?
Right.
Intention to trap. So that could apply actually. If it's not your intention to trap the animal, you just want to leave the house and you want to close the door so that people don't come into your house and steal things, and the animal happens to be trapped inside, but it has a way out that's not so obvious, that could be similar to that, yes.
But if you want to trap them, you can't say that just because it doesn't know how to.
No, it says specifically about the bees. It's only because it's not your intention. If it would be your intention, it wouldn't be allowed. Unless it's an obvious way out, then it's not considered trapped at all. But if it's something that's not going to easily figure out, then it's not allowed if that's your intention. Okay, total domestication. As a general rule, pets and animals that are docile and totally submissive are considered fully confined and may be trapped on Shabbos. An animal is considered totally domesticated if it immediately relaxes and becomes subdued when one reaches to grab it. This is a clear indication that the animal is totally submissive to capture. Confining such an animal does not even resemble someone and is therefore permissible. Most farm animals fit into this category because they're docile and will not attempt to resist captivity. Cows and horses that are used to their surroundings will readily submit when urged to go to their barn, stable, fenced areas. Thus, farm animals are different from most house pets, such as dogs and cats, that tend to scamper up and hide to their food. Oh, he's strict on dogs. Got to check this out. Simply loose chickens and hens that are accustomed to their surroundings will usually relax immediately when grasped by a human. This is quite unlike sparrows and most pet birds, such as parakeets, that will fly off when approached, even when already used to their surroundings. In some instances, even pet animals such as dogs, cats, and parakeets can be allowed to be considered totally domesticated. They have become very accustomed to and comfortable with their owner. This can be seen if the animal relaxes and immediately submits willingly when grasped by its owner, or others to it is submissive. However, others to whom the pet is not accustomed may not reach and grab the animals, will invariably squirm and struggle to escape. Grabbing and holding it against his will would be an act of tzad. So it depends on the person. If it's used to that individual, it doesn't try to escape, it is not tzad to grab it. If for another person it does try to escape, it is tzad. However, one must remember that all animals are muktzah and may not be carried handled on Shabbos. According to the Gemara, this includes pets as well. Therefore, even a totally domesticated animal may be confined only without carrying or handling it. Domesticated horse wandered off. One may not push it or ride it back to its stable. However, one may verbally urge it and cajole it to return. Similarly, if a chicken or hen accustomed to its farm wandered away from its coop, it may not be carried back. However, the bird may be cajoled by talking, whistling, or gently shoved with one's foot back to its coop. Controlling the animal is ineffective when shoveling is impossible. It may grab the horse or chicken by its neck and guide it walking on its own legs back to its coop while making sure not to actually lift it at all from the ground. This method would be permissible because the chicken is not being lifted or handled, but rather is being compelled to move on its own legs. It is therefore not allowed to consider tiltal handling a muktzah. Okay, so if you push that dog along, but it's actually walking, you're not dragging it, so that's not technically muktzah because it's actually moving on its own as you push it.
As you're pushing it.
Yeah. I'm not talking about pushing it so that it's literally being pushed and not moving on its own. You're pushing it and it's therefore walking in the direction that you're pushing it. You know what I'm saying? You're nudging it, therefore it walks.
And that's not a problem with pushing it's not a problem with muktzah?
No, that's what he says, actually.
So muktzah is only picking up and holding?
No. When it comes to other items that are not animate, pushing it is, could be muktzah. I mean, if it's not the usual way, that's something else. But pushing it could be considered a issue of muktzah. But here, because the animal is moving on its own, even though you're encouraging it to move, you know what I'm saying? Even though you're actually starting the move by pushing, but nevertheless, it is the one that is considered the main mover. It's kind of like Messiah. It's kind of like the concept that we have in other areas of Shabbos, where two people do something, and one is the main doer, and the other one is helping them. The helper is not considered significant.
So touching an animal is not a problem, just picking it up?
Yes. In general, that's always true about any muktzah. Touching muktzah is never a problem. It's only moving the muktzah, or certainly picking it up. When it comes to animals,
so a horse never really, you can always touch a horse, because you can never lift it, and you can always push it.
Yeah, that's true.
So any behemoth, really.
That's an interesting point. So you're saying you should be allowed to pet an animal.
Yes.
Not actually moving it. You're not moving it from its place, is what we're saying. You're moving the hair on its body. But here we see that that's not considered muktzah. If it would be also to move even the hair, so how could you, obviously when you push it, you're moving the hair. Sod 108, let's see some sources here.
So a bird would be a problem, and a cat could conceivably be a problem, but a large dog wouldn't be a problem.
I mean, the Mishnah Berurah seems to allow pushing an animal. He doesn't address why it's not muksa, but he does allow it. Talks about a cow and a horse that are not muksa. You let it grab them and tie them or keep them locked up. Sounds like the only muksa is to actually move them.
As in lift them up.
Yeah.
So you can't pick up your pet snake.
No. Or your cat or your rabbit. Or your Chihuahua dog.
But you can pat them because they're moving on their own accord.
It seems, actually. That's what it seems. It seems like a chiddush to me. That's what it seems.
And that could be any animal in the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to belong to you. It could be a wild squirrel.
Yeah.
If an animal is sleeping, does that make a difference?
We said before that animals naturally wake up when you try to trap them, and therefore a sleeping animal is still a problem to trap.
What I mean is, can you pat a sleeping animal because it's not moving itself?
Not really sure. Come up empty-handed. All right, I'm going to read some more of this, if you don't mind. Although trapping insects is prohibited, there are some instances where it may be permitted to trap an insect. This is because these species are insects that of not hunted variety, which are only rabbinically restricted. Because they become easily incited and are prone to sting, trapping them is permitted because the state does not extend the restriction to the face of substantial physical pain and discomfort. According to some poskim, honeybees are considered minonitzid because they're commonly cultivated by beekeepers. According to these poskim, honey-producing bees may not be trapped even when there's a threat of being stung, because trapping these bees is the malach of tzad midaraisa. However, most poskim rule that honeybees are not hunted species because bees are never meant to be truly confined, even while being cultivated for their honey. According to the poskim that hold honeybees are not minonitzid, bees may be trapped to avoid being stung. Many people can attest to the fact that bees and swamp or wasps are often a serious nuisance on the Yom Tov of Sukkot. It's important to know what to do in these cases. If bees are in the sukkah, one may cover them with a cup or bowl if one feels threatened by them. After the meal, let the bee go so it shouldn't suffocate. That is, you can buy these traps that take care of them, but you have to put them out before Sukkot. House pets are muktzah, just as are all other animals, may therefore not be carried or handled. One is permitted and required to feed his pet on Shabbos. If necessary, one may walk his dog or cat on Shabbos even with a leash. Holding the leash is not itself because the leash is not as an access required for the animal's well-being. In this context, it's comparable to a garment being worn by the animal. Thus, holding the leash is similar to grabbing a person's shirt, which in turn is like holding the person's hand. However, there's some conditions that must be complied with. If walking around, the leash must not drag on the ground, even sag within a tefach of the ground. One must therefore not allow too much slack on the leash. When holding the leash in the Rishus Rabbim, the free end must not protrude from one's hand to the extent of a tefach. One must not lift the animal in any way. The dog must not be rebellious to the extent the owner must struggle with it to keep it from pulling away and escaping. As explained earlier, a new or borrowed pet that is unaccustomed to its surroundings is not considered domesticated with regard to its new owner. This can present a problem when the owner or anyone else wishes to enter or leave the house, and the animal dashes to the door to escape before the door is closed. Closing the door would then raise serious halachic questions because doing so simultaneously confines and traps the animal indoors. Even if the animal does not actually run for the door, but would if it were aware it was being opened, there's a halachic problem with closing the door. So what do? Here are some ideas. If the house is large or has many rooms, we may enter or leave and close the door behind it because a pet bird, dog, or cat are not considered tightly confined in a large house. Closing the door would only be rabbinic level of sun. Rabbinic level of sun is permitted in circumstances such as this, where one's reason for closing the door upon leaving is to protect the house from burglary or from elements not to confine the animal. If there is no firm basis for permitting one to close the door when entering or leaving the house, the animal notices the opening and attempts to flee. Closing the door in that case would be forbidden act of tzad. However, the house is very large or has many rooms, one may confine the animal to a section of the house. As explained earlier, reducing and closing off part of an area of an animal's loose confined is not permitted if it still remains loosely confined. Long-term solution is to design the entrance of the house with a small foyer containing 2 doors. Entering them permitted if one is careful to close the outer door before opening the inner door. Got it? If your hallway in front of your house has 2 doors and both doors are never open at once, there's no trapping issues. However, if one lives in a very small apartment, closing the door on a newly acquired pet or dog could be forbidden. Similarly, closing the door to an individual room, even if it's a very large room, and therefore confining the pet to this room, will also be forbidden. In all these cases, the confinement is very narrow and could be considered tzava d'oraisa, which is forbidden regardless of one's intentions. Although closing the door on an animal in a small area is an act of tzad, it is nevertheless possible to enter or exit a small room or apartment in a permissible manner. The proper procedure is as follows. One should open the door only a crack at a time, while simultaneously covering the opening with his body. This will preclude any opening large enough for the animal to escape, even for a moment. In this manner, no avenue of escape will have been open to the animal. Therefore, opening and closing the door in this manner is permissible. Similarly, a farmer who must enter a chicken coop should open and close the gate slowly, rotating his body around the door opening or covering the opening with his body at the same time. All right, my friends, we'll have to continue next week. I'll have to read that and prepare a little bit better, fill you in on the details of what we're missing from the simon. And also, we'll start a Mitzvah Shem, the simon of tying and untying knots in Mitzvah Shem next week. My pleasure, all the best.
Good night.
Good night.